everybody knows Dave Hunziker. I'm just going to sit down and let Dave talk.
On. There we go. You guys hear me okay? What's cool is the weather, which has been really nice because it can be really a grind for the guys, I think for everybody in August when we start camp, because it's just hot and it's hot. That's what they're preparing for, is for it to be hot at 1 o'clock against South Dakota State on the last Saturday of the month. But today was kind of a reminder. We're at practice and there's a cool breeze and everybody is like, the players have been going hard all the time, but everybody's really perky today because it's cooler, you don't sweat as soon as you walk outside, and it's sort of this reminder that it's coming. We're almost there. The weather's going to change. We're going to start playing games. It's just like this wow. It was like a wow moment for me. It's like, yeah, it's not going to be 100 the rest of my life, I don't think. We're getting there, and the NFL's about to start. I've kind of become an NFL guy. I've fallen in love with it again. Yeah, just because I used to work on Sundays, and after COVID, I said, to heck with that. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have to. I'll just get up earlier during the week. It's like, why am I doing that? So my wife's a big Chiefs fan. My father-in-law's a big Chiefs fan. I grew up a Chiefs fan, so the Chiefs are on. And then we'll have pretty much any NFL game on during Sunday and just hang out and have a nice meal. And I love it. It's kind of a nice break, and then I can watch our guys play on Sundays as well. The other thing I've got into, and I'll tie this into everything, is kind of interesting. In my middle-age crisis, I guess it is, as I'm getting too close to 60 for my comfort, but at any rate, I got really into competitive bowling. And when I say that, I'm a card-carrying member of the Professional Bowlers Association. I've gained my eligibility. I've gone out. I've done it. And the last 2 summers, I've bowled in the Senior Masters in Las Vegas, which is one of the majors on the PBA 50. So I'm out there bowling right next to Pete Weber and Walter Ray Williams and Johnny Petraglia and Jason Couch. I mean, Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. I bowled with 2 Hall of Famers last year when I went out there, a guy named Brian Goebel from Kansas City and Pete McCordick, who if you look up on YouTube, you can see him 1987 shoot 300 on ABC and win $100,000. So I see my pairings. I'm going out there. I cash in the pre-tournament, which was a huge deal. I was so fired up I could have gone home. And I'm thinking, I'm going to make the freaking cut in this deal. There's 330 guys, man. I'm going to make the cut. I'll make some money. I'm going to go hit a couple other PBA 50 events. I have arrived. First thing I do is see the pairing sheet. Pete McCordick, Brian Goebel. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I got 2 Hall of Famers in my group. I was the only foursome out of 82 that had 2 Hall of Famers in his group. I had 2. So that was interesting. So I felt really good about myself, and then the tournament started. 3 days of 5 games of qualifying. Guys, I'm telling you, I've been around competitive sports my whole life. I just shook. I mean, I was so anxious and so nervous and so worked up, and it was a train wreck. I was awful. I didn't finish last. I finished in the bottom 15%, something like that. I choose to forget the exact number. But Pete McCordick puts his arm around me the last day, and I bowled much better the 3rd day. And they cut to the top 64, and that's who cashes. And, of course, I wasn't even close. And he says, have you ever done anything like this before? And I said, no, I haven't even bowled a regional, which is more the developmental tour. I've never done anything like this. And he says, well, it never goes well for anybody, ever. He said, I went on a tour for about 1.5 years. I was going broke. I had to go off the tour for 3 years and go back. That's what happens to everybody. He's like, you don't even know where to store your equipment. It's like, nope. You don't know how to keep score. Nope. He said, now you did a good job doing all that stuff. The way you take your turn is totally different. So everything's different. And the cool thing about that was I came back and I told Coach Gundy, and he knew I was doing this because he's actually kind of into bowling. He watches it. Of course, I think he thought it was funny I was doing it. But I said, now I know what Garrett Rangel felt like at Kansas last year. Out there, and everything's moving 800 miles an hour. And it's like, oh my God, what have I got myself? I mean, it's like, seriously, it's like, Coach, I get it now. You think you get it, but when you live it, it's totally different. It's like, wow. So this year, I get serious. I've got a coach. Yes, I have a bowling coach. I send him videos. He's out of Los Angeles. He's probably the best coach on planet Earth, and not that expensive, believe it or not. And he is phenomenal. He's helped me so much. He helped me shoot my 300 in December. He's helped me get better. It's been really fun. The good thing about that sport is in 45 minutes you can get a ton of work done. So he helps me. But then Dave decides he's going to screw with things on his own. I have hired the best bowling coach on planet Earth, and I think I'm going to make adjustments. That's about the stupidest thing you could possibly do. So let me just give you a fast forward to what this spring and summer was like. It was a very dry summer on the lanes. I didn't do any better in Vegas, a little bit better, but I learned another lesson that applies to this job. You don't chase ghosts. You stick to what you're good at. And when you think about our teams, and you're like, why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Let me tell you, from the summer of 2024 and that disaster that was my competitive bowling, which was only that tournament because I was not about to enter anything else, slowly I'm coming out of it, just in time to get busy, but that's okay. You don't chase ghosts. Don't fix what's not broken, and don't go chasing things around trying to find something that you think is the next great thing, and then all of a sudden you just lose all of it. So it's interesting how that experience has helped me understand even more what our coaches and players go through. You think you know because you've done it for 30 years, but no matter what it is, once you jump in the ring and do it yourself, now you really know. The good news about our football team is we don't have that problem of experience. We have a ton of it. So you don't have to worry about that. It is a unique team that it'll be interesting to see not only how well we do, but if we do well, how everyone reacts to that. Because there may not be a collection of experience of players who have played together on the same team on one squad anytime soon in college football because of the transfer portal. So it's different. How much does that matter? Probably matters a lot, but we'll find out. If that happens and we just run through, make the playoff, win the conference, whatever great things could happen, will other teams look at that and say, you know what, we got to figure out how to do that. Buying a new team every year maybe isn't such a good idea. If we have success, how will that impact how everybody puts a roster together? Because nobody is like this. Nobody is. I mean, this is so unique. And so I'm really interested to see not only how we do, but if we do well, how does everybody react to that? I don't know. The interesting thing about this team, too, is that the challenges are different. The schedule's very front-loaded. When I say that, the harder games are at the beginning, and there's some hard ones later as well. South Dakota State, two-time defending FCS national champion. I need to find out how we scheduled that. That's not something you usually try to do. That's just, it's like inviting the wolf into your backyard and you let your dog outside. It's like, oh, who let the wolf in? I don't know. He's here. So that's that. But Arkansas, and then, of course, at Tulsa, Arkansas and Utah are very different than teams we've played recently. Physical, big physical teams up front, different dynamic in terms of how they approach things offensively. Utah's a power team, really good linebackers. Their quarterback's healthy, their tight end's healthy. Arkansas's quarterback issues last year, I think, hurt them a little bit. I think they're better than what they showed last year. They'll have players. So those are different types of teams we haven't seen. So how will we stack up against that? It's just different. It's not to say we can't handle it. And we have to go to Kansas State in that mix as well. So it's going to be weird without OU and Texas, but the interesting thing is when you look at the new teams that have come in, they bring with them a lot of NFL talent. I mean, holy moly. I think Arizona has 2 projected first-round draft picks. Colorado has at least 1, if not 2, and probably another second-round pick. So the high-level guys are still there. They're just coming into the league from different teams. And so it's going to be weird not playing OU, but, and what's also interesting is a lot of what we used to do on offense in the Big 12 has kind of just now made its way to the Pac-12, and now they're coming back to us. So what we will see on some of the offenses from other teams is things like we used to see in the Big 12 a few years ago with the spread it out, throw it, play fast. Our league has changed because Iowa State came up with a defense to pretty much shut that down. So now everybody in our league is using tight ends and fullbacks and running the ball. You don't see as much spread out stuff. We don't play as fast. So it's a little different. So I'll be really interested to see. Of course, we have the playoff now expanded to 12 teams, which you probably know. And the highest ranked top 4 conference champions will get the top 4 seeds, and they'll be receiving byes. And then you'll have 5 versus 12 on down the line. I guess it would be 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, 7, 10, and 8, 9 playing December 20th or 21st on campus sites. Now, the joker in that deck is this. That's why we need to win the league and get a bye. Is if you're the home team, you have to guarantee a certain number of tickets to the visitors. So that could create a ticket crunch for anybody that hosts. So we need to get that bye and hopefully not have to deal with that. But that is one of the interesting things. I don't know how. I'm sure we have a plan for it. I haven't asked that question. I need to find out. I know when they first talked about this, that was something that was talked about. Is one of the reasons they hesitated from doing that was for that reason, because the ticketing thing gets tricky in terms of a guarantee to the visiting team who has earned the right to have those tickets. They've made the playoff. They should have a decent chunk of tickets. So I know we have a plan for it. I haven't asked Chad what it is, but that's one of the interesting things. So to win the national title now, you think about it, if you start in the 5 through 12 position, you've got to win 4 games in a month. Good luck against the best teams in college football. I'll make a prediction. I'll say in the first 10 years that'll never happen. It's too hard. 4 games against that level of competition in a month, in no way you survive that. No way. It's just not going to happen. It'd be hard enough to win 3, but that extra game and just the physicality of it, depth is going to be really important. It's going to be a quicker turnaround for teams now after their postseason, especially, let's think about it. If you make the conference championship game, guys, and then you have to play in that opening round of the playoff by some reason, or say you lose a championship game, probably a more likely scenario, you got 2 weeks and you're playing again. That's totally different than what we've done in the past. So everything's going to happen faster, faster, faster. So you better have depth, because if you don't, it will eventually take a toll on you. I think our team's built for it. I think our team is more built for it than what we've been in the past as far as the depth to manage that long journey through a playoff. But it will be hard. It'll be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it goes. You know, last year it finally got us with Florida State. We had dodged that bullet for a lot of years in that the first 4 teams were pretty clear, right, as far as, you know, who are the top 4. And had we made it a couple of years ago through the championship game and beaten Baylor, I think I may have mentioned this to you last year or 2 years ago when I came. From what I can tell, I don't think we would have got the playoff spot. I think it was going to Cincinnati. They had beaten Notre Dame on the road. They had the mega high-level win that we didn't have. Someone very close to it told me that. I said, hey, we made it. He said, no. He said, the Cincinnati win over Notre Dame took them to a different level when you start having to split things out. So, turns out we go beat Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. Worked out great. Like to have had a championship banner for sure, but you know what? That's not a bad consolation prize because Notre Dame will never schedule you. So you've got to take your lick when you can get it, and we did. So that was good. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I'm glad to see it. It's going to give, you know, the smaller conference teams an opportunity. It'll be interesting. We live in an evolving time, as you know, in college sports. That's like Coach Gundy said Saturday, and I agree with him totally. The good thing about the season coming is we don't have to talk about that stuff anymore. The summer has become what used to be a time of brief rest and respite in our business has become nothing less than tumultuous. Every summer it's something. It's conference realignment. It's a lawsuit that now we've got to pay players out of our television money. It's just one thing after another, and it's like, oh my gosh, can I go back to work? Let's play football. So we can just put that on the shelf, poor Chad and Reed never get a break from it. But anyway, that's what I guess you get for being the boss. But it's just nice to be able to put that aside, because those are, you can't think about those things too much in my world because it's stressful. I mean, you don't know, how this is going to play out. You don't know what conference realignment may look like. You may not know how these finances, what they look like. We've done a really good job, I think. NIL for us culturally is a hard thing. That's just not how we think. To quote Mr. Pickens, you eat what you kill, which means what you get is what you earn. And the thought of just taking money and handing it to players to come here and play, that's just not how we're wired. That's just, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not how we think. You want to make money, get in the dirt and get it. Well, we figured out that there's ways to do that without sort of diminishing your morals or your values. And we've realized that we just have to do it. That's where we are. But there's ways that you can approach it to do it the right way, and we've done it with Pokes with a Purpose. We have our other collective going, and I think everybody has warmed up to it. And that's to a credit to all of our people who have stepped up, because it's a completely off-the-wall way of thinking. I think Coach Gundy's done a good job of continuing to modify and research how he needs to approach his roster management, because that's totally different. So everybody's done a good job, and we have really done a nice job of getting ourselves into a good position that way. But here's the thing. It's like a buddy of mine from another school said. He said, look, nationally, as long as Mike Gundy is your head coach, you got a spot at the table. Everybody nationally recognizes and knows just how good he is and the amazing job he's done there. And as this guy said, he has a higher reputation outside of Oklahoma than he does in it. He said, I don't understand why that is, he said to me, but he said he does. He said, but what you need to remind your people is, like I have any influence, and you need to remind your people, they have a seat at the table as long as he's a head coach. You do something weird and he's gone, you'll find out otherwise. Like, I don't have any control over it. He's like, I'm just telling you. And it's like, okay. But this guy knows he's a valuable, valuable guy. And he's always figured it out. And some of the problems we've had over the years have been extraordinarily challenging. Obviously, most recently with NIL and the portal, just trying to figure out where to find talent that wants to come here and wants to be part of this culture and wants to be part of this community. Not everyone wants to be here. Not everyone wants to be at Miami of Florida. Not everyone wants to be at Rutgers or Northwestern. Every place has their culture and their fit, and you have to identify those players that are talented enough to help you win at a mega high level, but ones that fit the culture and will blend with others who feel the same way to give yourself the maximum chance to have success. He's phenomenal that way. I just never ceases to amaze me how he adjusts. And, he's such a unique person, but he's brilliant. He's made 2 phenomenal hires with our new defensive line coach and Sean Snyder with special teams, with Paul Randolph on the D-line. Those guys are really good, and super, super hires. And so it's exciting. I want to touch on basketball. I'll take a bunch of questions. We can cover as much as you want. I'll tell you what. I love how Steve Lutz coaches. I went to all but one of their full team workouts, and it is all about attention to detail. It is all about execution. It is all about accountability. It is all about building a team. It is all about the things that you all enjoyed under Coach Sutton. There's a lot of similarities. I really like what he's doing. He's got to get a roster together. He's working on that. We've got some nice pieces. I think he would tell you that hopefully we can find a couple more pieces. There's a reason he's here, because it was broken. And I liked Mike Boynton as much as anybody. As a person, not a better person you'll ever find in college sports. He's a wonderful person. I'm looking forward to staying in touch with him. Once he gets a chance to mature and do some other things, he'll be back as a head coach. Don't be surprised if he's not really, really good. Just wasn't his time. It's tough to be a first-time head coach. In this league, there's sharks everywhere. In most other power conferences, it might be easier to come in as a first-time head coach. But you're going to line up against Bill Self, Bob Huggins, Jamie Dixon, at that time Chris Beard, Lon Kruger at that time. Holy crud. I mean, are you kidding me? Scott Drew, as a first-time guy? Yeah. Not to mention the guys Iowa State's had. It's like, okay, yeah, that's hard. And the new coaches in the league outside of Kelvin Sampson, who is just another one of those guys now, at Houston, they found out the same thing. It's like, holy moly, this is serious. Yeah, it is. But I really like what Coach Lutz is doing, and we're making headway. I like his staff. I really like his players. You can kind of see how the team building is happening. We did a media exercise with them about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it was, even though they're all new, you could see the team bond forming. It's really really cool, because I haven't seen that much recently, honestly. Not like that. It's like, okay, I like who these guys are. So that's sort of where we are on that front. Schedule-wise, 20 conference games in basketball this year. Holy cow! Let's just beat your head against the wall 2 more times. It'll be, now you have Arizona in the league. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Tad Boyle at Colorado is probably one of the most underrated coaches in America. He's done a phenomenal job there. Arizona State always has dudes. Whew, that doesn't get any easier. And our non-con, as a result, you'll notice it's tapered down a little bit, non-conference schedule. It has to be. We are in the Big East Challenge. We go play Seton Hall out in Newark, New Jersey. I'm glad they did that so I can see my daughter in Brooklyn. I appreciate that. So make that work. We got Southern Illinois. We got some other things we're working on. We go to the tournament in Charleston this year, which is before Thanksgiving. That is a loaded field, so there'll be plenty of hard non-conference games out there for us, 3 of them. And then once we hit into December, it's conference. And so regardless of what the roster looks like, we will win games in conference we're not supposed to win because of Steve Lutz. But give him time, he'll get the right players in place. It's just, again, with the way the world is now, and remember this as you think about Coach Lutz, and then I'll just take questions, is they changed the portal rules for this year, allowing a player to go into the portal the Monday before the NCAA tournament instead of after it. So if you're in our shoes, right, and you're hiring a coach, if he's any good, he's coaching in the NCAA tournament, right? Or at least in the NIT. There aren't many guys who gets jobs that aren't playing in March. They don't usually get people like you very excited. So that's not what you do. So consequently, when you have to end up like most everybody else is waiting 10 days, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to hire a coach, you are way behind from the get-go. Because some of your players from the previous coach have decided they're just going to leave. Everybody else is gobbling guys in the portal. So for poor Coach Lutz and a handful of others across the country, they're behind from the start. I mean, way behind. Consequently, first year, you get your roster put together, may not be quite as strong as you would like. But now they've pushed that back again, so it's kind of a one-year thing. So as you watch our basketball team, and hopefully we'll make the NCAA tournament. I think we certainly can. But, if we have a little stumble or two in the non-conference, remember that timing challenge that made that extraordinarily difficult for new coaches. Not just Coach Lutz, but everybody across the country. Everybody's got a running start. It's like, my son-in-law who's on the women's staff told me that. It's like, what? That's stupid. I mean, if you're hiring a coach, really the way you'd want to do it, and I don't know, you may start seeing this in college. I don't like it. You start seeing, if they ever went back to that again, you'd have to fire a coach in February. You wouldn't have a choice. You just have to do it because you got to get everything. You have to try to win over those guys that might get in the portal last 3 weeks of the season and try to keep them, and then you've got to try to go get somebody if you can and get started, even though that guy may be playing in the NCAA tournament. So, oh, Lord, I hope we don't do that. But we've seen that in college football a little bit. So, yeah, fire away with questions. I've rambled long enough. Yes? Oh, false start.
How do you practice, or how have you been able to put into words what you see on radio and TV as fast as you do and describe what's going on? I without the uhs and ahs and all that, you're able to just phenomenally just relay that quickly.
Thank you for saying that. Coach Holder, Coach Holder doesn't, with us, he was awesome. He just left us alone. He said to me one time in Indianapolis at the NCAA tournament, he said, I would not want your job. I said, well, I don't really want yours either, so we're even. He's like, no, he said, every game for you is like a final exam. It's like, oh, man, I'd never thought of it that way. So you study like it's a final exam. I mean, it's probably for a football game a 30 to 35-hour process to get ready. So that's reading. I'm looking at different, Pro Football Focus is the analytics. I'm studying that. I'm juggling those things all over the place, looking for trends and things to ask Coach about, things to look for on video. I'm watching video. I'm putting everything into a chart that I use. And it's just a lot. It's like studying for a test. And so when it comes, and another part of that is the rules. I mean, that's the first thing I did was I didn't go to Vegas for Media Day, so I said, you know what, if I'm not going to Vegas for Media Day, then you know what, I'm going to act like I'm working. So I had my NCAA rule book and my instant replay case book, and I spent 2 days studying the crud out of that, and I'll do it again. So I want to make sure if there's a rules application, particularly a replay that happens in a key situation, I feel like it's my job. I have to tell you exactly what they're looking at, why they're looking at it, and what their judgment points are in terms of how this goes one way or the other. A lot of guys in my job, they don't do that. I think it's the most important thing we do. Because here's the thing. The storylines about players, they're all really cool, like he did this and he did that. But once we start a game, we're in the heat of the moment. I mean, no offense, but the fact that a kid had a wheat plot in his backyard is all well and good, but if it's 4th and frickin' 1, and we've got a fumble, no fumble, it's going to decide the game against BYU, you need me to tell you, what are they looking at in replay? Are we going to get this thing or are we not? And what are the guiding principles of replay that take us down this replay path? That's my job. That's a lot more important because I need to be able, in that heat of the battle, I need to know. And so that's why the rules have always been so important to me. I want you guys to be able to know exactly what's going on and why. And so it's like studying for a test, basically. And hopefully as I get older, I can keep it going. So far, so good. But my wife has told me, when you're done, I will tell you, and she will. I will not be. and I will tell you, and Scott knows, yeah, those that know my wife or work with her, she'll tell me. And but I won't be one, and I hope I don't think I'll be one that hangs on a long time, because when I get to a point that I don't feel like I can do this with 100%, this program deserves someone who can be 110% and not diminishing. And if it gets to a point where I'm diminishing, I need to be done. It's somebody else's, because this program deserves that. You guys deserve that. I don't want to be somebody that just hangs on. That's just not what I want to do. Yes.
Do you answer rumor mill questions?
Oh, it depends. I'm selective, and I'm good at dodging questions. That's another skill. So let's see what you got.
Well, hypothetically, let's just say that the OSU football department wants to break away from the athletic department. Have you heard that? And if so, what are the implications of it?
Well,
and if it's not OSU, do you think football programs will do this with their athletic programs going forward?
That's not just novel to hear. That's everybody's talking about that. It's what I think you'll see are general managers, literally. Somebody has to manage the player personnel part of this on a daily basis. And that means contracts, looking at talent, figuring out what talent's available. What is their market value? I mean, head coaches will pull out, and I'm sure Coach Gundy can do this too, they'll pull out on their phone and open Excel on their phone, a spreadsheet that will have probably the top 6, 7 players at a given position that they think they could get and what their dollar value is. They got it all the time, updated. I need a linebacker. Let's say somebody wanted Nick Martin from here. What's Nick Martin worth? In our eyes, $800,000. Everybody's got that. But you need someone who's going to coordinate all that and who is negotiating contracts, who has a staff of people that's watching and patrolling college football to find players that might help us in coming up with those dollar values. Head coach does not have time to do that, and nor should he be doing that. That is a specialized skill that the right person has to do, and that's what you'll see. You'll see these general managers popping up. It's like I was talking to one of our coaches the other day. We were joking around. He was talking about NIL. Something had happened was driving him nuts, so I was jerking his chain. I said, I want an NIL deal. And he says, okay, 1 contract or 2. It's like, what do you mean 1 contract or 2? He's like, well, do you want to be paid monthly, weekly, daily? How do you want to be paid? It's like, I don't know, weekly. He's like, okay, weekly. You want housing? Yeah. You want 2 contracts or 1? It's like, well, 2. You sure? You want your housing separate? That's going to be taxable. And he just starts rattling all this stuff off. And then he looks at me and says, see what my world's like? And it's like, yeah, I got to go. I'll see you later. Yeah, I think I'll go to the driving range at the country club. Yeah. Good luck. I'm praying for you. Yeah.
So in the midst of all of this, is the NCAA still in control?
No. And what's happened is, well, what happened is, honestly, with the NCAA is they basically have been lawsuited into complete ineffectiveness. Because one of the reasons you didn't see the NCAA really be proactive in this in the last 3 or 4 years is every lawsuit, they were like, gosh, what's the example? Think about the worst college football team in the country and 10 straight losing years. That was the NCAA's track record in the courtroom. They lost everything. They just kept losing to the point where they didn't want to do anything because they thought, well, we'll just get sued and lose a bunch of money, so to heck with it. So there needs to be a restructuring. I don't know what that'll look like. The problem we have is that in the NFL, it's all for one, right? The most powerful sports organization on planet Earth, National Football League. It is a well-oiled machine. It's unbelievable. Even the games, you ever notice? They're all 3 hours and 15 minutes long. They fit in a nice window. The rules are set up so that they fit in a nice window. Like we're watching the Chiefs game last year. I'm going long on this point, I'm sorry, but watching the Chiefs game last year, and there's a play that looks like it's an obvious fumble, and the Chiefs recover. Well, they don't review it, and the Chiefs don't, you only get the challenge. You don't get to just challenge everything. My wife says, why didn't they review that? She's like, in college, they'd stop the game and review that. It's like, it's the NFL, honey. They don't do that. It's like, well, why not? They want to get it right. It's like, honey, it's made for television. The NFL does not want the game stopped time and time again, because guess what? First game on CBS kicks off at 12:05. The second one kicks off at 3:20. They want a pregame show before the NBC game at 7:15. And no. They're not doing that. No. And they've got all these people watching anyway. But see, even that has a little bit of a competitive impact, they're all for it. They're all in it together. So they work out their problems in the family. They have the greatest product on planet Earth. They really do. I mean, it's unbelievable. Do you ever hear of controversy in the NFL? Seriously. That lasts. Seriously, do you? Hardly ever. And if it happens, it is gone like, it's like the barbecue smell on a windy day. It's just here and gone. It's just gone. It's amazing because they're all in it together. We don't have that. Because you got the SEC and the Big Ten. They want to run the show. They want to be the bullies. We're just not in it together. And that's the sad thing, because if we did, we could fix all this in a hurry. The sad thing is probably the only way it gets fixed is congressional intervention. I'm dead serious. I think that's the only way you get this corralled. Nobody else can do it. There's nobody else to do it. So that's the only way. Could it happen after this election cycle? It's on their radar, but that's the only way, guys. That's the only way, because you're never going to get all these conferences to agree, because they're all trying to be the king. And the only way to eliminate the kings is knock everybody back down to earth. And the only people who can do that are in Congress. As everybody else has tried, trust me. Everybody else has tried. Nobody can get it. Nobody can get them together. So we got to get everybody on the same page.
We got time for one more question.
I don't know. Got to do something.
Hey, Dave, what are you hearing on Florida State Clemson?
Not much. That's been such a weird. It's obvious they went out. Florida State played the card of trying to do this equity. What's the term? Financial. Thank you. Private equity. A few years ago, I mean, they have really tried to throw their weight around. The issue that they have had that's hurt them that doesn't get talked about. They have financial issues. I assume there's ongoing. They've had some financial issues. I think even some debt issues. They're trying to kind of make a move. I don't know. I mean, I got to give our commissioner credit. He has been very aggressive. And it's the only way you can be right now is to be aggressive.
Well, the problem is Central Florida has a bigger budget now than Florida State.
Well, I know. It's a different, and it's interesting. Florida State, I would bet 7 or 8 years ago, wouldn't have been caught dead in the same conference as the UCF. I mean, no way. I mean, my daughter went to school at Florida State and been in Tallahassee enough times to know, yeah, now the world's different now. It'll be interesting to see what happens to all those teams. I mean, you think about Virginia Tech, what happens to UVA, what happens to Carolina. I mean, for the longest time, I thought UVA would be in the Big Ten. I mean, they totally fit academically. North Carolina, the same thing. My friends that are in the ACC, and I have a couple that are really close to that are really in the middle of it, say North Carolina, SEC, never happen. No way. No, they'll be Big Ten. They would only go the SEC out of necessity. They want the Big Ten. That's what they want. Fits them academically, fits them culturally. They're not really an SEC school. Boy, my Missouri group, holy cow. They're full of themselves a little bit right now. We'll see how they do. My alma mater's pretty full of themselves right now. Hey, for them, I hope it works out, but woo-wee, they sure do feel good about themselves right now. Pardon?
When did that change?
What, Missouri being full of themselves? Just this past year when they beat Ohio State in that bowl game, bud. Yeah, it's like they had to beat Ohio State in that Cotton Bowl, man. Woo. Anyway.
I'm sure we can convince Dave
Yeah.
to stick around and answer some one-on-one questions.
Yeah, of course.
All right. We thank you very much. We
bet.
appreciate. We appreciate.
Thank you. Thanks
your
for having me,
time.
guys. Yeah.